But Last Good Sleep, I definitely wanted to ask you about that because, like, it's 2020 now. So now, like, in hip-hop, there's this long history of having songs that, like, go into vulnerable subjects and shit like that. In 1997, though, you didn't hear a lot of that. Like, it was a very rugged era. There's a lot of posturing going on. And you know, made a song that rang really true and sounded like it was opening up something from your personal life. What went into that decision for you?
Well, to some degree, that song I had been trying to write for years at that point. I had taken a crack at different angles of trying to sit down and write about that thing that was very real in my family and my life and definitely affected me. I remember I was dating this girl and we broke up and I walked back to my crib. I don't know, I didn't really feel anything. You know what I mean? It was one of those like, you know, all right, like, cool, like that was inevitable. And like, and then I got back to my house and I was alone in the living room and I just sat down and started writing. And for some reason, after years of attempting to write something that, you know, I always would try and write something about that, but then just put it to the side.
Right.
Because I couldn't get at it. It was too big. It was too personal. It was too, and I wasn't ready in the art. I wasn't ready in sort of where I was to feel confident in exposing myself like that or doing justice to it. You know, I mean, when you're writing a song like that, you're taking on the mantle of trying to do justice not only to a song, but also to your mother and your sister and
the relationships,
you know what I mean?
Experience.
Exactly. And, you know, I came from a family where this event happened and we didn't talk about it. We just changed the locks, you know. There was no conversation. There was an understanding that we no longer talk about that. But it fucked me up for years. And for years, I couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. I had nightmares of powerlessness, of regret, of revenge. And it even affected my life. Shit like chasing someone down into the subway station because I was going to fuck them up and realizing that it wasn't the dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there was no closure whatsoever. And while everyone had progressed and everyone was cool and everyone was good, I was still haunted by that. So there was a part of me that had attempted a couple of times to try and get at it. And one day after this non-emotional breakup, I sit down in my living room. I found myself somehow magically alone. You know, when you live in your apartment in your early 20s, you're never alone because you got like 20 roommates and shit. And I found myself alone and somehow this shit just came out of me. And I wrote it and I'm crying as I write this thing. And I have no idea why it managed to come out at that moment. There was really no precedent for putting this type of jam on a record.
No, it wasn't.
And to be fair, there was no precedent for putting this jam on a company flow record.
Right.
It didn't really go with the rest of the stuff that we were doing. But I felt like that didn't matter because we were defining what we were.
Right.
And maybe there was room for that. You know, even when I recorded it and played it for like LAN and shit, and people were crying listening to this thing, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if this one's going on the record, guy. You know, but it just felt genuine. It was an artistic breakthrough because it was the first time that I had been able to use language and music to really get at something for myself. There was a lot of healing that came out of that song.
That's great.
You know, the closure that I never had came out of that because I ended up playing it for my mother and playing it in her kitchen, and she burst into tears. And, you know, I got to tell her it was over and I mean it, you know, and I never had any more dreams. Now, something that I haven't mentioned is that the day that I recorded that, I had another dream. You know, I had one more of these dreams, and these dreams were often things like replays of this sort of helpless event, but with me empowered, you know, with me with like a bow and arrow, not being just a fucking whatever I was, I don't know, 12-year-old kid who couldn't do shit. And then the dreams never stopped. I named it Last Good Sleep as a reference to the fact that, I mean, really everything about that thing, the description, what happened, my perspective was 100% to the bone, pure and true. And I listened to it and I saw that I just recognized that. I was like, there's no more honesty, that there's somehow I got it out. And I was like, fuck it, put it on the record. In my mind, it wouldn't connect with anybody because why would anyone want to hear about my personal shit.
It feels like such a unique experience to you at that point. You're not thinking anybody else could connect to it.
Correct. And you're just like, this isn't what people are looking for. How is this not self-indulgent? Of course, I've changed my perspective. Thank God I did that, because it changed me. I was like, oh, I get it. I understand art now a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because art at its most potent is plumbing the depths of that. And you at your most connective is getting the most inward that you possibly can. And it doesn't mean that it's going to connect to everybody, but it means that the people that it does connect to, it's going to connect on a level that you'll never connect with to the people who kind of like or get or are having fun listening to the other shit you're doing.
Right.
There's going to be one person out of 50 who gets it, but that person's going to get it on a level that, like, you made a mark on that person's life. So, yeah, it was powerful. And once I did that, it really did change art for me. And we'll talk more about Cold Flow, but it really did inform the way that I went about my solo record. Because, again, it was like the last song that I did on that record. And then I toured it. And then it was like people coming up to me with tears in their eyes and shit. And I was like, oh, I was wrong. I was wrong about what this could mean to people.
I mean, I just put out an album called Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. And believe me, I so connect with how you must have been feeling, because, I'm at that stage where I'm just literally had to face the fucking terror of that feeling of being exposed on that level. But I can look back at that song that you made and be like, damn, this is kind of the lane that kind of came out of that, where in this indie shit, in this B-boy shit, where it has been so much about styling and trying to be impressive and trying to, do this and do that. Like, there's actually room to get into like the discomfort and the uncomfortable shit that we have gone through that have gotten us to this point. So, I gotta say thank you for that.
Oh shit, man! And thank you to everyone before that. Like I think that the truth is that it's something that every artist will have to encounter.
Due to this kid that you fuel with anger actions, discuss mostly sick most. Never have satisfaction till your bones melt. High incident clips and crumple zones, holding flicks on you. Eternal intruder up in my zone. Dwell the matter of months follow. Why you propose only the lonely know. Swallow my mother when she was hollow. And who could blame a woman like her? Singular parent. One love already dissolved and a solution left polluted. Two kids with a father who broke out as resoluted. So fucking she needed love, but you provided false clout. Stomping on the bottom end under which she just walked out. Knew you was Jekyll the stepfather. Bit my tongue on the issue. Next to stormy weather and forced tolerant. But secretly vexed. Wish I would've spoke on it, but why deny the bliss? Mine's with a new husband. Casted needles, puncture pressure. Briefly lifted the guilt from a divorce, snuffing her pleasure. Now
like at different times, no one can tell you it, no one can teach you it, you can't jump into it. You certainly can't manufacture it.
Right.
And there's one thing about pain and about is that it doesn't work if you're manufacturing it for a song. And so therefore you should just probably not step to it until it's real. But I think that it is a waste of the gift of being able to make something artistically to not use the tools that action provides you. I'm trying to come up with a decent metaphor, but it'd be like living on the beach and not going in the ocean.
Right.
So you're telling me you've lived on the beach the whole time, but you haven't even gone in the ocean? Like, you should go in the ocean. It's part of the experience.
It's funny for me because I spent my whole career, just to follow this metaphor, I spent my whole career kind of walking around the edge of the ocean. You know what I mean? And like pointing at the ocean a lot, but never actually like going in it.
Like,
so
that's deep.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that was an amazing thing for you to have done, and I'm glad that it also feels like the right thing for you to have done.
It did, and ultimately it was, like I said, it ended up informing something in me. Like, it ended up jostling something loose for me, where I got addicted to it a little bit. I was like, oh, word? You like that? Boy, I got some more for you. You know what I mean? And all these records that I was doing, you were just hearing me learn how to be an artist in a lot of ways. So, like everyone, I'm pretty sure that you couldn't have written a record about, divorce and trauma when in the first 10 years of your career, your attempts to become, your attempts to be an artist. That's the type of thing that you have to allow to emerge in you. And I think that the truth of the matter is that's the one real story that I was able to, that I had to tell anybody at that time. There wasn't other shit that I was really ready to even talk about or had the technical ability to translate to anybody to, you know, to talk about that. That was the one. And that was one that I knew to my core. I was like, yeah, I can tell you this one. This one is a story. So.